Hey everybody, Melissa Simonson here, and I am super excited for this week's episode of Amaze on Stream because I have got with me Burak Yolga. Did I say that right?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, wonderful. Welcome. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to talk to you about, everything about your entrepreneurial journey, which I think is fascinating, which I think started early, if I'm right.
Correct.
So I kind of want to dive into how you got started and, if entrepreneurship came naturally to you, and then kind of see, through the years, how that has progressed into the company that you now run. So Burak, thank you again for joining me and welcome. I would love to ask you the first question. What was your first inclination toward entrepreneurship? Like, how young were you?
Probably I was 6 years old that I was trying to sell the used books of my friends. That was probably, maybe you don't want me to go back.
That's perfect.
But I guess it starts from there. My mom was a teacher. My dad also worked in a government job. So we didn't really have anyone in the family in a business. But I guess my biggest motivation back then was like money. When I was in high school, in university, I always like work in the different jobs. Especially, I'm originally from Istanbul, Turkey. We have a lot of nice big hotels in Turkey, all inclusive. Especially people from Europe travel, Russia, and then I was working in the hotels, like in the guest relations and other jobs. So that's actually I started like kind of early. But I guess the biggest step and biggest risk that I took in my life was moving to China, 22 years old, without knowing a single word of Chinese. So that was, I think, that's where it started. But now I really appreciate that decision that I made, and that really changed my life.
So how old did you say you were when you moved to China?
I was 22 years old. I just graduated from the university. I did my bachelor degree in Turkey International Business. I did 1 year MBA in Paris. That's where I realized actually my world is really small when I met all those international students from 40, 50 different countries. And I was like, okay, I want to do something more with my life. And I think that was the age. I think our generation was a little different. I was born in 1988. People now with the social media, they are actually more exploring things. So it's kind of easier. Back then, people will still that, hey, bro, you're not like 60 years old. You're not like that big of a different with the generation. But I still think that we have some differences. And when I was 22, we didn't really have like iPhone. I think I had a Blackberry. So it was not that easy still to travel. We were just getting there and in the start. So my plan was actually to move to Asia for 6 months, do an internship. I did an internship in the world's largest golf resort. There were around like 17,000 people work in the operation, in the hotel operation. It was crazy.
Wow.
It was right. Yeah, it was right in the border with Hong Kong and China in a big city called Shenzhen. My plan was like 6 months, do an internship, travel a couple of months with a backpack in Southeast Asia, go back to Turkey and get a job in a corporate company. But thanks God it didn't happen.
So what did happen when you had this plan? Did you actually go backpacking?
After the 6 months, I decided like I want to do another job. I want to get something else. And then the advantage of Shenzhen, it's in Guangdong. A lot of people probably who is doing e-commerce or who has been to China, been to Canton Fair and Hong Kong. So the cities between Guangzhou and Hong Kong. It's a it's a big city growing. The population is 25 million people, but it's a very young entrepreneurs and a lot of companies that have innovations. And it was a really great city to be actually. For me to do networking, crossing the Hong Kong every week, like it was only 45 minutes by train or by bus. It was like really a lucky spot also that I choose. And I start working for a Chinese American company as a sales person, and I got to the position sales manager, sales director, and then I started my own business. Obviously it didn't happen this easy, but I'm happy that it did happen.
Yeah, it's always when you're doing the cliff notes of it, then it always sounds like, oh, and then this and everything worked out.
Exactly. I think the biggest issue was not knowing the language, not knowing the culture. I was not really prepared to stay that longer, even my family. They were asking if I'm going to go back or not. So I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to come. And then I was trying to go back and forth to Turkey. But eventually, I think China is an amazing country to start a business, learn the business. You every day in your life, you run into so many difficulties and so many challenges that if you don't give up, it really helps you to grow. I think that's the most important part about China. And then, it's the capital of manufacturing. And so many people, they want to buy product from China and they're afraid, they cannot trust, and etc. But you're in the middle of the opportunity. And then, the question you need to ask yourself, I guess, was why not?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. To be right in the middle of it. I know how much the sellers that I know who have been to China have benefited. And I watched it happen. Like when I went to China and I saw sellers who like they found something, they sourced the product either at Canton Fair or when we were in Yiwu. And they also like ordered them, got a sample back, and had placed their first order of inventory before we ever left China. Like it was just incredible to watch the momentum that you can get when you're there. And I imagine living there has got to be like that times.
Absolutely. I mean, the one of the thing was interesting is start traveling around China because, most of the people, they go there and then they just visit the trade shows. But people who lived in China actually and then do sourcing, because back then my background was I started my business as a, middleman, like a sourcing agent. Right. And I had to travel so many different cities, take the train, take the bus, like, meet the factory in the train station with a driver who doesn't speak English, who can't find you, or people are actually pointing at you with their finger. They're like, oh, why go? And first time they see a foreigner in their city, that, because I've been to this crazy business trip. It was at tire factories. We were sourcing truck tires and passenger tires. And the city even didn't know like KFC or McDonald's. So people who has been to China would actually understand what does that mean if the city doesn't have like KFC and McDonald's. It means like really, really local, just pure Chinese. And then they didn't even speak Mandarin. They were speaking a different dialect. And I was like, what is like going
Cantonese on? Or something?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. That makes it even tougher.
I know, but it was, I survived.
When you first arrived, though, what was the biggest difficulty that you faced when you're 22 years old, you get to China and you don't speak the language and you want to start a new business? Now, I'm going to just throw this out there real quick. When anyone is starting a new business, whether they're like in their own country,
right,
and they're like doing it out of the comfort of their home, and they, maybe have a sense of some of what is available to them, that's still really difficult. That's still really tough. And it's a huge leap. So tell me, what of all of those many things that could terrify someone into not pushing the button, what did you actually really struggle with?
I guess my story is a little bit different than right now, people who want to start something, because back then, we were in a free world, you could travel, there was no COVID, no restrictions. Unfortunately, right now, even if I have an office in China, I cannot travel because of the restrictions. For me, the biggest challenge was actually I didn't know the language. And I went to the restaurant for the first night and I was really thirsty and I didn't know how to say like water.
Yeah.
And basically I was like taking out my tongue, like I was like, hey, I want water. I was like doing with different signs and different that they were bringing me different things. They were bringing me pepper, salt. I was like, oh no, like, what I'm gonna do. And eventually I had to go to the kitchen and grab the water and everybody's like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay, so this is going to be a difficult one.
This is going to be tough.
That's a joke part, obviously. I think a lot of people, they don't know where to start. I think that's the thing. It was also the same for me. I didn't really knew where to start, but like, I lived in the city that there's so many opportunities, so many big wholesale markets. Every day I had an off day from my full-time job. I was going to the market, looking at the electronic components. I was trying to find some friends back home who could actually, I was asking people to connect me to different people who's doing business. Hey, are you buying from China? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? But I guess right now things are a little different. And if you live, let's say in Pennsylvania, in a small in a city, and then you cannot travel to China, I guess the first option is just like go online and try to buy things, e-commerce. But the good thing is there are more information outside right now, in YouTube, in podcasts. There's so many really great entrepreneurs. They have like good tips, bad tips. I think the best thing is start is to start. And before you make mistakes, try to avoid them. Because when I lived in China, I guess I didn't really have any guidance. That's why I made so many mistakes. That's why I lost so much time. I lost money. I lost energy. Some days I was like really, really upset, middle of a train station. I'm like, wow, like how did this happen? And then, thanks God, like, nothing major happened. But like, in some point when you're inside a station, you think that your life is over. But a month later, you don't even remember that moment. So that happened to me maybe hundreds of times. And I'm sure it happened the same thing to people who lived in China. I guess people should start first. And, while they're trying, while they're doing things, they will actually figure out, okay, that doesn't work out for me. That doesn't make sense, but maybe I should try something new. So I know so many people, oh, I want to start e-commerce business. I want to start online training courses. I want to start teaching online Spanish. I want to do this. What do you think about that? Everybody's asking me, all my friends, and I say, like, you need to start from somewhere, but it's really, really important. If you start something and if you believe that you're going to spend your 1 or 2 years, it should have a future. You shouldn't be just like copying something. Right. You shouldn't be doing exactly the same. I mean, obviously it's not that easy to wake up with a very innovative, idea, but at least even if you do something, do it with a patient and then add up something and then make sure that that thing or that industry or that core business has a future, or it's going to have like a growth potential. I think this is something that I would tell people just to start first.
Yeah. Oh, I love that advice so much. It's definitely one of those things that people could view it as like, well, if I start now and I don't know what I'm doing, then I'll waste that time. But I would say, I challenge your statement that you had wasted time. I would say that those moments that you faced and overcame are the things that got you maybe to where you are now. And I feel like sometimes when you go through like the grinding process and you come out feeling like churned meat on the other side, that's really when you grow.
I mean, every difficulties and every failure is gonna teach us something. I think there's a good saying, one mistake is an experience and 2 mistakes, you shouldn't do it.
Right.
And I always believe that taking risk or, it's better trying and failing than regretting 2 years from now and, oh, I wish I've tried that. I think that's really important to try, do it, listen to your heart and listen to other people who failed. Never talk to people like, oh yeah, I succeeded.
Yeah.
Talk to people who failed. Yeah, exactly. And then, and everyone, the thing is, I think there's no failure or success in life. Because every day, even if you don't realize you succeed a lot of things, you succeed a lot of things, maybe you drive your kids to school safely, or you came home, or you went to help people. So I think everyone has some success story in their life. They just need to focus on that more. And then with the business, talk to people who fail. I think that's one thing that I love doing in my life in China. I met so many people and I never was tired of asking people what they did and how they started. I think sharing communication is the halfway to start also.
Oh, I totally agree. Okay, so you've gotten to China, you are jumping in, you have experienced some failures and some successes. And one of the things actually that I love about the statement that you just made about, there's no failures, there's, the advice that you're taking should come from people who have failed. Or who have been perceived to fail, because at least they have tried enough things that gives them experience and some wisdom. I know that there's VCs who actually will not give money or back companies that people are starting when they're, when they have not failed yet. So people don't want to walk in there and say, oh, I tried this business, I tried that business, and they failed. But it's actually much better for a VC or someone who is like trying to have confidence in your abilities to see they have some experience with this. They know what failure looks like. They have made some pivots and changes in business, which is really important. So I love all of that. So, okay, now we're back in China. You have had a few jobs and now you are looking to start a business. So walk me through that path of how you got there.
For me, it was, I think the turning point for me was my uncle. He actually failed with his business in Turkey, and then he moved to, excuse me, he moved to Africa as a consultant to one of the largest Turkish construction company. And they were doing a road construction, and then he asked me to start helping him with like some sourcing some items. And back then I had a full-time job in this Chinese American company, 2 years. So I was like, yeah, okay, sure, why not? I was doing I was managing like team of 5 people in sales department, and then in the evenings I was going home and then doing sourcing.
Right.
And we did a couple of like trial orders and etc. And then he's like, why don't we start building a website about that? So it was about like heavy equipment and construction machinery spare parts, like Cat, Komatsu. We were doing like an OEM products and etc. So the owner of that company started introducing me to other companies. So I started traveling to different countries from China, like to Kazakhstan, Russia, Ukraine, those kind of countries, Turkey. But back then I really didn't have much money, so I was actually teaching English weekends in a kindergarten. And by the way, people don't see me or people don't know me. I'm actually 6'2", and like I'm kind of giant in China. And kids were like, all over me. They were like really scared of me. Like they're like, oh, who's this big boy? And then I was teaching English, and then that's people who don't know about much. So many actually people go to China to teach English, and they travel in Southeast Asia like a couple of years, and then they go back to their country. That's a very common thing, but for me it was a little different because I never really wanted to do that and then just leave China. So that was for me like a kind of side hustle. But then I realized I'm not really that good with kids. When like 15 kids are screaming at you, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to change it. And I start teaching business English after the full-time job. And then at night, I was going back home and then doing sourcing till midnight. And back then I had a folding bicycle, like not really actually a big bicycle, a folding bike, because you couldn't take that to Subway. So
No, that was a real thing.
I'm sorry?
You could fold your bike up.
You can fold the bicycle. Otherwise, the subway, you cannot take that to the underground, like, subway to metro. So I had this because I had to go between jobs. And then, back then it was like not that easy to get a driver license in China, etc. I didn't have really much money. So I had like a folding bike. But it was good times, unless it really pouring rain, which it happened because it was a very tropical climate, like where I live. The Hong Kong people, like if they know like how the Miami weather is exactly the same way. So that's how I started. But then I quit the job. I went to school in China, learned a little bit Chinese for 6 months. And then that's how I started. I start meeting people. They start hearing about me. That's like also the other things, like if you give a good service, it's word of mouth. I think reference is one of the most important way. It's hard to gain a new customer, but also it's important to retain a customer. So that was for me the thing. So that's a little bit of the background, how everything started. And then and then I don't remember the rest, like what happened to those 5 years, actually, the time I started my business until I moved to US.
Oh, goodness. So, okay.
I really confused you right now, right? You're like, oh, wow, okay, different story.
I'm still on this folding bike. I'm just blowing my mind. I'm like, this is great.
I'll send you the picture later.
I need that. I do. I need that picture. Okay, so now you have, at this point now, you have left China. You're leaving China to pursue other things?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now based in US 3 years. 6 years ago, we started this company called Forceget Logistics. We were helping e-commerce and Amazon sellers to do door-to-door shipping. That's one thing I realized. E-commerce business was growing, and a lot of people. I'm sorry for the noise. We have like a construction next door.
Oh.
Back then, e-commerce was growing, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna help because I was already doing international shipping for my customers who buy product from us, because they had a difficulty with communicating with the Chinese freight forwarder. There's no visibility. There is no transparency with the pricing and the process and everything, managing the entire process. So I started this company called Forceget Logistics with just one person, my dear friend Lucy, who has been working with me more than 6 years now, our office manager now. We are a team of 25 in total at the moment. And then, we're doing door-to-door international shippings for e-commerce and Amazon sellers. I came to US, did a couple of trade shows and met people. Then I understand that people actually really do appreciate your experience in China, and they trust you that what you do, and then I was like, okay, this is a good business. I want to actually focus on that. And but the idea of digitalizing that I had this almost like 2.5, 3 years ago, and then we hired someone part-time to help us to do a digital platform. And then that was my first experience with the software, and it was like I started losing hair every single day. I was like, that's not really for me. And then something that I understand, we failed in the first project. I was like, wow, okay, this is not something you can actually ask a software engineer, go and copy some other platform, or
Right.
go and just do what others are doing. That's something like, okay, that doesn't happen that way. I was thinking like, that's something easy. And then I sister, she was running a almost $1 billion department in Turkey, in a very large holding company. She was the product manager, innovation manager for that holding company. And I came up with this idea, and she really liked the idea. And then she became the part of the company, and then we started building in-house software. And then, thanks God, that's where I understand actually, Melissa, where the delegation is very, very important. If you don't delegate, you can't grow, you overwhelm, because everyone is different. My sales part is really strong, and her analytic part is really good. And I think that's something that's what I understand. And once I start doing it, actually we grow way faster.
Yeah.
Because I start focusing on my own strength. And I did not know that before. And like 3 years ago, I was trying to do everything myself, and I was always complaining, I don't have time, which I don't have time right now too. But
Yeah.
in a different way, that's what I understand. Like, delegation is the most important thing, and you cannot be good at everything. So that's why I love the idea.
Love that so much. I love
Yeah,
and this, I think if people take nothing else away from this entire podcast, I think that message that you just delivered is so hugely important, because I think most entrepreneurs not only try and do it all, but I think they start trying to do it all because they feel like they have to know it all. They have to know
absolutely.
everything in order to be successful, and in order to stack up against the people that they're seeing on social media who are posting their revenues, and it's like, oh my gosh, why are they winning and I'm always losing?
Right.
And so then you feel like you have to be good at PPC, you have to be good at logistics, you have to be good at product photography, like a bunch of stuff that may not even be close to your
Absolutely.
universe.
Trust me, I was thinking about creating my own photo studio, and then I understand how stupid that idea is. And delegation is important. Yeah, true. But that's another thing. So many people, before they start their business, they're focusing on so many details that don't matter actually.
Yeah.
You just need to start looking at the bigger picture, step back. That's another thing that I'm a type of person, like, people know me, they know that I'm crazy, and I'm always criticizing my own acts. And I was like, how I can do this better, or how I can do that better. The only way you can do that sometimes is actually step back, and actually evaluate what you do. That's maybe the EVA comes from there, evaluation. I don't know, that we should be asking the owners. Evaluation is really, really important. What you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Team meeting. You don't have to have your own team meeting. Like, you don't have to have in-house people. There are like so many great websites that you can actually go and hire people with a really good rates that can actually teach you things while they're doing it. Don't also just give a task to someone. Ask them to come up with a business plan. Excuse me. Ask them to come up with a business plan, or ask them to come up with a roadmap, at least so you can understand what they're doing, instead of just giving someone, okay, can you manage my PPC? Ask them questions like, how are you going to find your keywords? These are important keywords for me. Can you help to boost them? The holiday season is coming. Did you do your holiday related keyword research? What kind of campaigns are you going to do? Instead of just giving people the task of doing that, just before you start a job or task, have a 30 minutes meeting, ask them the questions. Even if you don't know what you're doing, ask them what they're going to do. and listen. And then next time, if you want to grow your business, or if you're not happy with that person, at least you know the milestones, and then you can actually ask the right question to the people. I hired so many like wrong people in my life that I was like, okay, now I understand that for me, the time is more important than the money. And I want to work with, like, you know, when I started my own business, I didn't really have really much capital. And I was always trying to hire someone that not expensive, but same time, like without experience. So I thought like, okay, I can teach that person, but then I understand that the time that I'm actually putting on that person, give it training, which we still do, obviously, you know, everybody
Right.
needs to learn, but in some point, if you want to really scale, then you need to work with people who have an experience. So I think that's like, you know, a lot of lessons, but I would not know this like 5 years ago. I guess there are two things. There are two things that people can't buy with the money. It's time and experience. And, you know,
That's
that's,
it's 100%
that's
true. And I would say, like, I just love, I love all the advice that you're giving. I'm 100% on the same page as you. You know, this delegation, a very, very difficult thing, because there's a trust thing that happens there. There's also, like, you know, we like to come to the rescue. As entrepreneurs, we like to be the only one who can save the day. We definitely feed off of that. But I think that knowing your strengths and being comfortable with the things that you're not strong at, and giving someone who is strong in those tasks, those, you know, the ability and the you know, empowerment for them to carry those out. I think it's hugely important, because I think when people do that a few times, you get like this delightful light bulb moment where you're like, I can tell people to do stuff, and then it gets done. And I didn't have to do that task that I hate so much. It's a beautiful thing when you actually
right.
start. And I will say, I've for a long time, I've been very resistant to delegation. It's been a very difficult journey for me to
We're all
relinquish
learning, I
control.
guess.
Yeah.
We're all learning, you know, because, you know, I found myself so many times, middle of the night, I stop, I pause, and I'm like, why I'm doing this? Because I don't like doing this, and I don't want to do this. Why I keep like, and then, you know, like, I'm sure it's the same with a lot of people. There's some tasks on our table, or on our, like, you know, on our dashboards, whatever, and then you just keep postponing it, and then it stuck in your head,
Yeah,
and then it gives you a lot of, you know, this like
exactly.
horrible feeling, like, oh, you know, you cannot even relax. At least I'm a type of person, because I even have, like, you know, when I'm sleeping and I have dreams, I still come up with the ideas, and then I wake up, and then I'm
Sounds
like,
very
oh,
restful.
that's a good idea. 4 a.m. in the morning. I think that's about being entrepreneur. And I was always like, my friends are like, sometimes I come up with, like, especially my sister who worked with me, she's a little different, and I'm happy she's a little different. She's kind of better version of me, because she's always telling me, hey, Burak, you should do this. I think that's also another thing. Having someone having someone in your life you can actually go and ask ideas. I would never do that. I didn't really like to share things before, but now when I have a new idea and I say, like, hey, should we do this? Should we do that? She's like, no, like, you know, focus on your core business.
Mhm.
Because again, I always wanted to do everything myself, and I had this crazy idea to create this really a big like the warehouse system and this and that. And then she's like, no, you need to focus on your core business and maybe outsource things, you
Mhm.
know. And then instead of, you know, we are a freight forwarder, instead of, you know, buying my own planes or renting and trying to be fulfill inside with the products, it's just better we just, like, you know, maybe partner up with like strong companies who only expert in that specific business, and we focus on something else that we're good at. You know, I think that's important, that someone you could actually go and get advice. It doesn't have to be business advice. It could be like a life, you know, someone who's not happy in their marriage, someone who's not happy in their 5 to 9 job. No, 9 to 5. You see, I haven't been working in the corporate business like long time, so I don't even know the working hours. It's a 9 to 5 job. I have really good friends. Can I do a podcast recommendation in here?
Absolutely, please do.
I like my friends like Ken and David. They are, I think you should really host them one day. They have this amazing podcast named Firing the Men. they were both different background. Ken was an he was in the military. David, I'm not sure his background, but both had this 9-to-5 jobs, and then they both quit, and then they started a very successful e-commerce business. And then I have the privilege of helping their shipments. And then, these guys are talking about like, how they actually fire their boss. So, I hope that like no one really gets angry to me, like, who work in this. Obviously, I'm not asking you to go and fire your boss, but what I'm trying to say is everyone has different mentality, and then you could actually talk to your friends and ask the advice. And then if you want to start something there, or if you're in the middle of your journey, get always advice, get always recommendations. You're going to see that your life is going to get easier, and you're not going to make mistakes, simple mistakes maybe others did already. That's why I love the podcast, and that's why I like to listen to other people and meet new people. I think networking, another very important thing, go meet people, go do events. There's so many free events that I'm sure in your city or some cities that you can travel. I always like to mix up like fun and business trip. That was my dream when I was like, 16, 17. I always wanted to travel the world, and I'm lucky enough to do that now. If I want to develop a market or a customer, I just go to that country and then start meeting people, and then that really changed in my life.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Networking, I think, is, a lot of people know the power of it, but I think until you've experienced it in a few different ways, then it's really difficult even to describe the impact it can have on your business, on you as a person, and just your life in general. So we're coming close to time here. I want to give you a quick opportunity to tell us like exactly what Forceget does, a little bit about your services, and then I would love to have you on again. I could talk to you all day. This is so much fun.
I know, yeah, me too. I feel like I have a lot of things to talk, but Forceget Logistics, we have offices in China, Turkey, Sri Lanka, Hong Kong, Germany. We do international logistics. We are a freight forwarder. We have a digital platform. People can track their shipments online. We have a warehouse service in California, Miami, New Jersey. The best thing about our service is that with the digital platform, you can track your shipments online. Everything's visible. You can chat with our team. It makes it very easy. A lot of people in our industry suffer with the delays and visibility issues. We basically put all the information that you need to run your business, and you don't really need to worry about. We also have like warehouses in China. We can help you to collect the shipments from different suppliers, consolidate it, and ship it to your door without any hassle with the custom, the truck. We handle everything A to Z. So that's what we do. If you guys want to get more information, you can visit the forceget.com, and you can contact us there. Fill out the form, or like you can reach us out with the email or the phone number that we have in our website.
Wonderful, wonderful. Absolute, incredible pearls of wisdom dropped today. I really appreciate you appearing on Amaze on Stream, Burak, and I hope to have you on again in the future if you're willing.
I love being here. Thank you so much, Melissa. I really love the concept, and I really love finally talking about myself.
It was a pleasure, and I love all your advice. I will find way more opportunities to invite you to all kinds of things and networking events. Festivus is coming up, so we might see you in Miami.
Yeah. See you soon.
All right. Thanks, Burak. Cheers, guys.